All right, so the recording has started. So good morning, good evening, depending on which part of the world you've come from. Welcome to today's panel discussion on design thinking. We are excited to have you join us for this informative and engaging session. Today, we are fortunate to have a panel of experts who will be sharing their insights and experience with design thinking. I'm sure that this panel discussion will provide valuable insights and inspiration for all the attendees and will help you to understand how you can apply design thinking in your own startup. Now, I would like to hand over the control to Sanjayji to introduce our guest speakers and kick off the discussion. Thank you again for joining us, and we look forward to an engaging and informative session. Over to you, Sanjayji.
Thank you, Dev, and welcome all the mentors, all the participating startup companies. This is our second week, and this is our first live session. So I'm excited to have all of you here and looking forward to next 16, 17 weeks to work with all of you. So today, I hope that the first week's presentations that we had uploaded, there were 3 presentations that you had chance to go through that one. So for today's discussion, we have very senior mentors going to have a panel discussion, and this is to make it informative. And later on, after their panel discussion, floor will be open for question and answers from all the startup companies, other mentors as well. So first, I'm going to introduce all the people who are going to be in the panel discussion. I'll start with Abhijit Thosar. Abhijit earned his engineering degrees from Pune University, master's in product design from National Institute of Design, Ahmedabad. Over 2 decades, Abhijit has designed consumer and enterprise products for many Fortune 100 companies by leveraging the power of design thinking. Abhijit heads the research and design R&D team at Amazon Web Services, where he's involved in solving its wicked problems in industries such as healthcare, manufacturing, automotive, sustainability, clean energy, and supply chain. Abhijit also adjunct design faculty at Stanford University, where he teaches advanced product design to final year engineering students. He also actively invests and mentors early stage startups. Originally from Mumbai, Abhijit now lives in San Francisco Bay Area, which is where I also live in, and many of our mentors. So Abhijit, welcome to this panel discussion, and thank you for joining and coming up with this session. Next, I'm going to introduce Kalyani Mahendale. Kalyani works for Llama, a purpose-driven startup that focuses on workplace well-being. She draws from her industry experience of over 15 years as innovation consultant and design thinking practitioner to support Llama's journey. She also teaches entrepreneurship at SP Jain School of Global Management at Dubai. In the past, she has helped businesses find the right product market fit, create new business models, and envision future scenarios using innovation-based practices like design thinking, lean startup, and agile. She mentors startups at pre-seed and seed funding stages. She has been a mentor for GMG on a number of occasions. Originally from Mumbai, Kalyani has lived and worked in UK, Hong Kong, Italy, Singapore, Dubai, where she is currently located. And I also want to add that Kalyani has been part of our previous cohorts that GMG was running. So Kalyani, welcome back to this session and to the panel. Next is Madhav Dabke. I think a lot of you are familiar with that. Madhav is quite active in a number of different initiatives that we are doing, and I'm really happy to be working with him very closely. He's a double postgraduate in finance from Mumbai University, holds a professional degree like CA 2B, and currently working as Vice President, Head of Products with Suntech, responsible for developing human-centric products and services. He's a practicing design thinking professional with over 26 years of global industry experience. Madhav has been on board of Garje Marathi Global, and has been a mentor for many startups. He was associated with Infosys for over 17 years, also worked with TCS, Axis Bank, and other organizations in various capacities. Madhav is also appointed as mentor of charge by Atal Innovation Mission and is a mentor with IIT Mumbai, Symbiosis, Pune University. He's currently based out of Pune after relocating from Germany last year. Madhav, welcome back to our sessions of cohorts. We just finished our last cohort just a few months ago, so I'm really happy to see all of you back.
Thank you, sir.
And next is Ismail Akbani, with over a decade of engagement in academics, startup incubation, training, mentoring, and consulting. Ismail Akbani has been actively contributing to the startup ecosystem. He has received multiple grants from Government of India for entrepreneurship promotion initiatives. As the former head of innovation and linkages at Symbiosis Technology Business Incubator, Ismail has supported more than 100 startups. He has been a speaker, panelist, and jury on many prestigious platforms such as IIT Mumbai, IIT Kharagpur, Rotary Club, University of Stirling, Swedish Institute, IIT Goa, etc., and has provided consulting as well as mentoring on design thinking, innovation, entrepreneurial leadership, and storytelling for senior executives from some well-known MNCs as well as startups. He's associated with the National Entrepreneurship Network as a consultant and is also a mentor at Startup India as well as various incubators in the country. Ismail, welcome on this platform. I am really looking forward to have you here. I have heard about you in the past about meetings and so on. So welcome to this panel discussion. Next, I'm going to introduce Samir Ketkar. Samir, I have had the pleasure of working with him, or he was a co-mentor, fellow mentor at previous cohorts as well that Garje Marathi had run. Samir is equipped to provide astute advice on energy economics and development programs so that his clients make their Horizon 3 strategic capital investments materialize in real time and create value for stakeholders. As a successful design engineer, corporate strategy practitioner with financial advisory experience, he does have varied key areas of interest which resonate with GMG cohorts. He's a BITS Pilani graduate in process engineering and completed his MBA finance and mid-career from Strathclyde in Glasgow. He's a GMG board member and avid startup enthusiast with innovative business propositions in mind and inclination to sketch it on a broader strategic canvas for market economics so that his mentees bring real game changer for the customers and investors. With origins from Ratnagiri, he has traveled places in Europe, Middle East, and the US for design engineering consulting work over the last 20 plus years. And he's currently based in Muscat as advisor to Tier 1 client hydrocarbon space. Samir is also going to be presenting one of the sessions on marketing topic, and he has done that in the past course as well. So Samir, welcome to this session. Looking forward to all this exciting panel discussion. This is really to all the panelists on this session today. The very platform that you are presenting it here today to make it interactive. It's really a very nice one, rather than just having a monologue of presentation that we will get to hear from all of you, and all of us, even mentors, will benefit from your rich experience and background. So I'm looking forward to this panel discussion. Welcome, and let's get started with the panel discussion.
Thank you, Sanjayji. Good morning, everyone. Good evening from the places wherever you are. So I will try to moderate this session. At the start, when I start thinking about design thinking and the startup cohort diversity we have in their domains, the question comes to my mind, which was asked to me some time back. Once I introduced myself as design engineer at that time, some 20 years before, people started asking me, you must be good at some artwork. You must be either a painter or some kind of a artist. Maybe our audience here, and also some questions in our minds as well, maybe arising that design thinking must have to do something with the fine art. So let me ask our panel members. One of them is actually from National School of Design. So let me go over to him directly. So Abhijit, you must be good at something related to fine art. Isn't that right?
I mean, I don't know. हा सगळ्यात जास्त वेळा विचारला जाणारा प्रश्न आहे माझ्यासाठी.
I'm not the first one.
Right, and I would say it's also very often misunderstood aspect of design. It is often associated with art or craft or drawing, colors, right, decoration, fashion, jewelry, right. So mostly people think of design is about look and feel, right, about aesthetics, right. And I think that in our day-to-day vocabulary, we keep hearing things like अरे भाई साहब इसमें कुछ दूसरा design दिखाओ, right? So it's always about, design is always associated, very often associated with look and feel, right? But reality, design is not just a noun, it's not just an adjective, right? It's really a verb. Right? Design is, मैं आपण मराठीत म्हणतो तसं क्रियापद आहे ते. So design essentially is a problem-solving approach, right? But it is not an analytical or a linear way of solving problem like mathematics, right? It's human-centered approach. I think at the core of design and design thinking, it is really understanding the user needs, the customer needs, and human needs, and trying to solve their problems, right? It is creative, it is iterative. Unlike mathematics, it's not linear, it is highly iterative, it is creative, it is collaborative, and it's a way of understanding the market needs. And creating a valuable product or service for the market. And essentially, it's about improving lives of your customers, right? And last but not the least, it's also about making money, because I'm sure all of you are here to kind of start your company or startup and hopefully kind of create value for yourself as well as for your customers. I hope all of you have attended last week's Dr. Mashelkar's program and lecture, right? He talked about assured framework, right? So if you apply design thinking, you're assured that you will be able to create a product that is affordable, scalable, sustainable, universal, rapid, excellent, and distinctive in the market. So last but not the least, I just want to kind of share a quote by Steve Jobs. I'm sure all of you are aware of his, his contribution to the field of design, right? He said something simple yet very profound, and he said that design is not about how things look. Design is about how things work. So to me, that's really the essence of design.
Excellent, Abhijit. So let me go over to Kalyani on this aspect of how she thinks design thinking will help startups. So what are the main features she would like to highlight here? Kalyani, you want to say something on this?
Thanks, Amir, and thanks, Abhijit. That was really, a great introduction and, setting the tone for the entire session. So thanks for that. I completely agree with, Abhijit, that there is a main difference. I've been an artist in my past life, and now I am, right? So I can completely relate to both these concepts. So art for me is more emotional and provokes a lot of thought, right? It's a form of self-expression, whereas design, like Abhijit said, is to create something with an intention. Right? We all create, we all design something with an intention to achieve a particular outcome or to solve a particular problem. So design, like he said very correctly, is a process, and design thinking is the way to think about solving that problem. It's a framework or a methodology or an approach, if you will, to solve that problem in a structured or a particular way. Right, so design thinking really is the way to think about problem solving, I would say, and it really is collaborative, it is innovative, and like Abhijit said, it's also about making money. Yeah, it's not just
Right.
thinking about ideas and being in the clouds. It's actually about making money and solving a problem for someone.
Yeah, making the ideas work and solve the problems. So excellent narration about the topic from both the panelists. So let me go to Ismail to just to understand what are the typical different stages in the design thinking process and how it relates to the life stages of startups. So how design thinking can help in various life stages. Ismail, if you can
Thank you so much. And I
come
think
here. Yeah.
it's very relevant we talk about it at this stage. So when we talk about the stages of startups, there are multiple ways in which people categorize. Somebody talks about 5 stages, somebody will talk about 10 stages of a startup. To make it easy, based on my experience so far, I think the startups, the entire journey of a startup, right, till they make it begin into the market, can be put into 3 phases. The first is when you are actually coming up with the idea, right? And then the first goal is you're trying to solve a problem, as both of the speakers earlier mentioned. Even in design thinking, there are parallels. If you see, the very word startup that brings to our mind the concept that we want to solve problems. And then when we say design thinking, it's also about solving problems. Right. So on, if you look at, there are strong parallels between both of them. In the startup, the
Right.
first stage again phase is where you're trying to understand your customers, trying to figure out the problems, also trying to understand whether the problems that I am uncovering, I'm targeting, are they real problems in the world, or are they my assumed problems? Right? So I was listening to a talk by Dr. Abhijit once in Symbiosis, and he said that there are 2 kinds of problems. One are the problems that are real problems that exist, and the others are invented problems that we as startup founders invent because we want to come up with a solution for that. So that's the first stage. You're trying to understand who your customers are going to be and things like that. Then the second stage is, and that those 2 stages, I think Abhijit will elaborate maybe in going further. But the first 2 stages of design thinking are discover and define. Right? So these 2 stages align with this first phase of the startup journey, where you are discovering with the customers and trying to define the problem statement, the real problem statement. And then you move on to the next stage where you are working on the solutions. When I say solution, it's not just the product, but the entire business model you're building around that solution. So you're working on that, you're coming up with prototypes, you're coming testing different initial proof of concepts. That is where the next 2 phases of design thinking come into picture, that we call as ideation and prototyping. And then you move on to the third phase where we actually put it out in the market to test, to see the reaction of the actual customers to the product and service that you have built, what is working, what is not working, what could be improved, right? What could be further refined. And this entire journey is an iterative process. So you keep going back and forth between these loops throughout the journey. It's not a linear steps. It's not like that, I've done this part now, chutti abhi ye khatam ho gaya. Like there's never a chutti in
Right.
this process.
Keep improvising all the time. Yeah. So that may be a good connect with Abhijit, how he thinks DT can help in every stage. Abhijit, do you
Yeah,
want to add
sure.
a few
Sure. No, I think,
points?
absolutely, Samir. I think like Ismail said, right? I think again, this is another myth about design that, design is something that you do only at the beginning and rest is all execution, right? And that's another myth that I want to kind of address, right?
Right.
Again, same thing, right? We hear, right? Design kar diya, becho or banao or becho, right? So design ho gaya. So I think that's again another myth. It's a continuous process. It's a mindset, right? And it can be applied not just to your product or a service. In reality, you can apply design thinking to product development, to packaging, to marketing, to sales, support, even HR and finance, right? So when you start adopting these tool sets, right, and methodologies, they will be useful in all spheres of your startup journey, right? And that is very, very important. I mean, we can, obviously there are steps involved, there are typically, if you Google design thinking, right, you will typically see a lot of images of the process, but essentially it can be broken down into 5 steps, right? As Ismail was saying, you start with an empathy, right? You want to understand what the market need, customer needs are. Then you start defining, right? You start prioritizing, right? Because you don't want to serve. Your customers are not anyone and everyone, right? You need to kind of define who you are, what market segment are you going to serve, right? What category of users you are going to serve and what their needs are. So you start narrowing down your focus. Then you ideate, explore variety of solutions for that problem. Then you prototype. I think this is the most important aspect of design, and I'm sure other panelists will add to this, right? It's rapid prototyping of different ideas and getting feedback, and then also using prototypes to sell your idea to investors, right? You're all startups, so I'm sure at some point you will want to kind of go to an investor and raise money. So your prototypes are very useful artifact to get money, to grow and scale your startup. And then testing and validation, right? Before you launch it in the market, making sure that you're validating that solution actually works for the customer, as well as you can produce it at a reasonable cost, right? So that you can make money. So testing your business model, like Ismail mentioned, and also testing your product and service.
Yeah, these are deep thoughts, and they come with the experience, right? Abhijit, from people like you, Kalyani, Ismail. And further deep diving, I want to go with Madhav here, how he thinks people can prioritize their ideas. A lot of people in the startup domain have ideas, and basically they want to prioritize those, how to build their products, which to build first. How he sees that aspect of startup process as well as connect with the design thinking. So Madhav first, and then we'll go to Kalyani as well. Yeah, thanks.
So,
Madhav?
thank you, Samir, and thank you, Abhijit, Kalyani, Ismail, for setting the stage for me.
Yeah.
आता आपण थोडंसं आयडिया विषयी बघूया. आपण नेहमी म्हणतो डिझाईन थिंकिंग स्टार्ट्स विथ अन आयडिया अँड स्टार्टअप ऑल्सो स्टार्ट्स विथ अन आयडिया. It's a good combination. That itself is a good connect between these two topics. माझ्याकडे जेव्हा कोणी येतं आणि म्हणतं की माझ्याकडे ना काहीतरी मला करायचं आहे आणि मला काहीतरी आयडिया माझ्या डोक्यात आहे, मी त्यांना म्हणतो तुम्ही लिहून काढा. सो कॉर्पोरेट वर्ल्ड मध्ये जरी आपण म्हणत असलो की लेट अस डू व्हाईट बोर्डिंग, दॅट व्हाईट बोर्डिंग इज जस्ट अन एक्सप्रेशन. तुम्ही तुमच्याकडे साधा खिशात असलेली एखादी छोटीशी वही, तुमच्याकडे असलेला पेपर, तुमच्या कुठल्याही सरफेसवर जिथे तुम्ही लिहू शकाल आणि ते लिहिल्याबद्दल बोलणी खाणार नाही, असं कुठलाही सरफेस तुम्ही वापरा. आणि मी लोकांना सांगतो की रोज सकाळी उठायचं, एक आयडिया लिहायची. रोज सकाळी उठायचं, तुमच्या डोक्यात ज्या काही गोष्टी येतील त्या लिहायच्या. हे करत असताना तुमच्याकडे सगळ्या आयडिया मिळून एक पूल तयार होईल, पूल ऑफ आयडियाज. आणि इट इज वर्ल्ड ओव्हर प्रोव्हन दॅट द सक्सेस रेट ऑफ टिपिकल आयडियाज दॅट सक्सीड फायनली इज लेस दॅन 10%. सो दॅट मीन्स तुम्ही जर 10 आयडिया तुमच्या मनात आल्या तर तुमची एक आयडिया सक्सेसफुल होणार आहे. आता तुम्हाला तुमच्या 10 आयडिया सक्सेसफुल करायच्या असतील तर याचा अर्थ तुम्हाला 100 आयडिया कुठून तरी शोधून काढल्या पाहिजे. आणि त्या 100 आयडिया तुमच्याच एकट्याच्या असल्या पाहिजे असं नाही. डिझाईन थिंकिंग आपण ऐकतोय, कल्याणी मॅडम म्हणाल्या, अभिजित म्हणाला की इट इज अ कोलॅबरेशन. सो याचा अर्थ तुम्ही तुमच्या घरातल्याला विचारा, तुम्ही तुमच्या बाजूच्याना विचारा, तुम्ही तुमच्या कंपनीत तुमच्यावर काम करत असलेल्या कोणाला विचारा. एवढंच कशाला, तुम्हाला ज्यांना प्रॉडक्ट विकायचं आहे किंवा तुमची सर्व्हिस ज्यांनी घेणं अपेक्षित आहे त्यांना सुद्धा विचारा. अँड दॅट्स वेअर द पूल ऑफ आयडिया इज द फर्स्ट स्टेप. नाऊ यू हॅव गॉट अ पूल ऑफ आयडिया की माझ्याकडे हे पण आहे, ते पण आहे, मला हे पण करायचंय, ते पण करायचंय. And like Ismail was suggesting that empathy is the first stage in design thinking. So plus, please understand, design thinking is a very well-defined process which starts with empathy and ends with testing or actually handing over that product or service to someone. So empathy म्हणजे काय की दुसऱ्यांच्या, so in English you step into somebody's shoes and experience it. मराठीमध्ये आपण असं म्हणतो की मला तुझ्यासारखं काय होतंय त्याचा अनुभव घेतला तरच मला कळू शकेल की काय होतंय. आणि हाऊ दिस इज इम्पॉर्टंट, हाऊ डू वी कनेक्ट ऑल दिस इज व्हेरी सिम्पल. एकदा तुम्हाला तुमच्या युजर्सच्या नीड काय आहेत किंवा तुमच्या कन्झ्युमरच्या नीड्स काय आहेत, त्याची इन्साइट्स काय आहेत. मला वाटतं थोड्या वेळानंतर विल टॉक अबाउट सम स्टोरी पार्ट ऑफ द युजर जर्नी. पण तुम्हाला एकदा त्याच्या मागची त्या कथा कळली, त्याच्या मागची स्टोरी कळली तुम्हाला, तर द बिगेस्ट प्रॉब्लेम नीड्स द फर्स्ट अटेन्शन. दॅट इज द रूल टू बी यूज. अँड वी आर हिअर नॉट टॉकिंग अबाउट ब्युटिफाईंग समथिंग. वी आर नॉट टॉकिंग अबाउट हाऊ इट लुक्स ऑर फील्स. मगाशी अभिजित म्हणाला तसं की डिझाईन इज ऑल अबाउट is not about how it looks or how it feels. It is about how it works. म्हणजेच तुम्हाला तुमच्या युजरचा प्रॉब्लेम सॉल्व्ह करायचा असेल, सगळ्यात मोठा प्रॉब्लेम ही तुमची फर्स्ट प्रायोरिटी, त्याच्यानंतर दुसरा प्रॉब्लेम दुसरी प्रायोरिटी, तिसरा प्रॉब्लेम तिसरी प्रायोरिटी. सो तुम्हाला ज्या वेळेला प्रायोरिटायझेशन करायचं असेल त्यावेळेला तुमच्याकडे आधी लिस्ट ऑफ आयडियाज पाहिजेत. त्या लिस्ट ऑफ आयडिया मधनं तुमच्याकडे लिस्ट ऑफ प्रॉब्लेम्स पण पाहिजेत, जे तुमच्या एम्पथी स्टेज मधनं तुमच्या युजर्स कडनं येतील, आणि देन जस्ट स्टार्ट मॅरिंग देम. And I believe, Samir, the easiest way to prioritize is that get into user stories, get into user insights. The most tangible and most impactful problem takes the front seat, and that becomes your natural priority rather than you deciding what you should produce first. Okay, so it should be other way around. It should be user-driven priorities and not your priorities. I'll take a pause
That's
here.
right. Oh, fantastic, Madhav. So बेसिकली तुम्ही म्हटल्याप्रमाणे प्रायोरिटाईज करणं तर आवश्यक आहे. इन्स्पिरेशन पण कुठूनही येऊ शकतं आयडियासाठी. सो मला कल्याणीला आज प्रश्न विचारायचा आहे की हाऊ शी थिंक्स लाईक वेअर typically the startups get inspiration from, and there is no one straight idea towards that, right, Kalyani? So how to find inspiration? It can be from the user, it can be from the environment, right? You live in the business environment, the social environment. Yeah, Kalyani, over to you.
Yeah, absolutely. I get asked this question a lot, and it's a great question because a lot of people are like, कुठनं मी ideas कुठून येतील, मी काय, मला काहीतरी सुरू करायचंय, मी कसं सुरू करू, or such and such. But if you see most of these organizations who made it, like Airbnb aso, Bumble aso, kiva Netflix aso, they all started by founders who experienced a problem for themselves, right? म्हणजे तुम्हाला स्वतःला एक प्रॉब्लेम एक्सपिरियन्स झाला आणि त्याच्यामुळे तुम्ही विचार केला की अरे हा नुसता माझाच प्रॉब्लेम आहे की इज दिस अ प्रॉब्लेम फॉर अ लार्जर मार्केट? So let me go and find out if this is just me or this is a larger market. And if it is a larger market, then that becomes a big problem for you to solve. For example, quick example, I have a printer and मी जेव्हा हाँगकाँगला राहत होते तेव्हा I wanted printer मधली इंक गेली आणि संपली, and that printer was bought from Dubai. So there was no ink for that printer. So I called the customer service and I asked them, look, I'm not getting this ink anywhere for this printer, and a normal, your home printer. And they said, ma'am, you will have to fly to Dubai to get this ink. And this was recorded. And I asked her, you realize this conversation is recorded, right? You're asking a customer who lives in Hong Kong to actually fly to another country to buy ink. So these things, so that was a problem I sort of encountered. And if I would have dug deeper and asked a few more people that is this the same problem that you experienced, then this would have been a problem to solve, right? Because for a use case like me, this is something that relates to me. So a problem that you might have experienced, or your friends or your relatives or whoever, look around you and see, try and observe what is it that needs a solution, what is it that needs design with an intent, right? Also, the other area to see would be industry specific. If you are working in a particular industry, try and find out how things work in the industry. Are there any loopholes? Can I, make something better or innovate in that industry space? Kiva technologies, एवढ्या सगळ्या technologies आता येत आहे. There is something called as a Gartner hype cycle. म्हणजे, you go there and they tell you which technology is here to stay, which technology is going to go obsolete. So pick a technology that is here to stay and try and find out if that technology can help to solve a particular or existing problem, right? So various ways, but I think the most common way to get inspired is to just observe your own experiences, others' experiences, and have a look at, is there anything that you can solve?
All right, that's great. So
yeah, I'm sure Madhav would like to join in.
Samir, मी फक्त एकच लाईन ऍड करतो याच्यात इन्स्पिरेशन साठी.
Sure.
You get an inspiration even from nature. तुम्ही जगातले सगळ्यात बेस्ट इनोव्हेशन जर बघितली असतील तर ती नेचर मधून आली आहेत. पक्षी उडताना बघून विमान आलं, सफरचंद पडताना बघून ग्रॅव्हिटीचा लॉ आणि त्याच्याशी रिलेटेड असलेल्या सगळ्या गोष्टी आल्या, इन्क्लुडिंग माय फाउंटन पेन. इट वर्क्स ऑन अ लॉ ऑफ ग्रॅव्हिटी.
Yeah,
सो इट इज जस्ट इन नेचर. सो द होल डिझाईन इज इन नेचर. सो तुम्हाला
right.
इन्स्पिरेशन कुठून मिळवू याची काही गरज नाहीये. तुम्ही जस्ट बाजूला बघा, तुमच्या आजूबाजूच्या एन्व्हायरमेंट मधनं आणि आजूबाजूच्या निसर्गातनं सुद्धा तुम्हाला इन्स्पिरेशन मिळेल आणि तिथून सुद्धा तुम्हाला आयडियाज मिळतील.
Certainly, certainly. Abhijit wants to add in something here.
Yeah, actually, just a thought here, right? See, sometimes what you can do is, just go to Google, look at the reviews of customers, of of your competitor, or even your own customers if you already have something up and running, right? तुम्ही कस्टमर फीडबॅक बघा, कॉमेंट्स बघा, रिव्ह्यूज बघा, त्याच्यातनं तुम्हाला खूप इन्स्पिरेशन मिळेल, राईट? तुम्हाला बरेचसे प्रॉब्लेम अनसॉल्व्ड आहेत या जगामध्ये आणि बरेचसे इवन अ बिग कंपनी लाईक ऍपल कॅन लुक ॲट इन अ सक्सेसफुल कंपनी लाईक ऍपल कॅन लुक ॲट देअर कस्टमर फीडबॅक अँड गेट अन इन्स्पिरेशन in terms of how they can improve their product and how they can improve their service. And all of this, a lot of this data is free, right? So you can definitely use social media, use other channels where you can get, you can understand where people are struggling.
Absolutely, absolutely. So when the struggle aspect comes to our mind, I kind of move into a next segment of our panel discussion, which is about customer needs, and they are ever changing, right? If I look at even my space here in the energy economics, the energy it used to be perceived like 5-10 years before, it's no more the same. Yeah, so you talk about individual customer or organizations as your customer. You need to see what is changing. Yeah, so for example, we know the oil or gas business has been running in certain way, and coal used to be in 70s and 80s the similar way. That doesn't exist anymore. So getting the oil molecule is not so important. Getting the right oil molecule which will not consume more energy in producing it is important. So the service providers to this industry look at these changing customer needs. Yeah, so how they can use their technology to improve the oil recovery or gas recovery or mining, for example. And they are providing new type of solutions. So people are looking at what that carbon dioxide will do. Is it only plantation going to help the large scale of problems? At the same time, you have the emerging economies which need that energy and that need to be affordable, right? So it is a mix of a situation where there is no clear answer, and it's a huge space for the ideas to emerge and also solutions to be provided here. So as like the customer feedbacks, as like the stakeholders of that industry, what they're crying for, what they're shouting for, what they are really looking at. Yeah, so those needs which are ever changing, we have to be very close as startup entrepreneurs, right? So I will take this question to Ismail as well, how he thinks this sort of a problem can be handled. So how we can judge the changing needs of the customer and how DT can help here. Yeah.
So an interesting point that you raised, about changing customer needs, because as they say, only thing constant in the world is change, and so our needs also. But one very important and beautiful aspect of design thinking that I particularly like, and as we already discussed, that there's a deep focus on understanding the customers. But if I go a little bit deeper, the focus is not on the solutions. The focus in design thinking is understanding the problems and the needs. And I think that's one important aspect where design thinking departs from a lot of conventional ways, right? So just a quick example to you, this gadget that I have right now here with me, the basic need here is communicating with somebody who is not in close proximity with me. Now that this is not today's need. This need has been since ages, since we started living as a civilization. So centuries ago, the need was there. The solution was a kabutar, right? And then times progress, our progress, we kept progressing. The need remained. The solution changed from to a messenger. And then as again centuries passed by, decades passed by, we grew up, we progressed. The need remained. Solution changed into something called a telegram, maybe, right? And then again, the need remained. The telegram became a telephone, and then it became a wireless phone, and then it became a pager. then it's now a smartphone today. 20-50 years down the line, again need will remain the same, the core.
Yeah.
The solution will change to something else. We'll not be using the gadget anymore. Right. So I think one important thing we need to focus is what is that core need of the user. Right. If we talk about Kodak example, for example, right? Kodak, the first digital camera was invented by Kodak, but their focus was on the solution, on selling that film cameras, not on the actual need of the customer, what the customer needs. If they had focused on that need, they could have captured the change in the trends, right? That the customer wants to capture the memories, but also while on the go with those features, probably they would have adopted the digital camera. The other point I want to touch over here is that when we talk about needs, right, there are spoken needs, the needs that the customer is aware of and they talk to you. There are unspoken needs as well, unarticulated needs. And these are the needs that emerge, as Madhav sir was mentioning, during your user stories, when you talk to them, when you listen to those stories, right? And quickly to wind it up, the third point is beyond the layer of needs. So I think Madhav sir touched upon it. So we have solutions, you go one layer deeper, there are needs, and then you go one layer deeper, there are insights. The insights are the why part of it. And I believe that the solution keeps changing, needs will also emerge, but the why more or less remains same. Why I do that? You talked about the energy sector. I might shift from one energy sector, source to another. Why do I do that? Because I want to save money, right? So no matter what that source I'm using, but that why remains the same. I was recently at a khadi store in Varda as a part of my PhD research, and I was sitting the entire day. We talked about fire on the wall techniques. So I was sitting in the store observing how customers react to the khadi products. And a couple came, a husband and wife. They brought some kurta for their guru, one of their guru, and within 5 minutes they bought it. No jig about pricing, kuch nahi, ye itna kitna paisa, ye paisa do lo. And the wife got some sari for herself, and then she sat down and started taking shirts from the husband. कि मैं आपके लिए शर्ट ले रही हूँ. तो husband says कि नहीं, I don't want it, don't buy for me. So she was insisting कि नहीं, मैं आपके लिए ले रही हूँ. And his response was something I know. He said, यार अभी मेरे जवानी, and they were in 30-35 का age group. So अभी मेरे जवानी के दिन मैं मॉडर्न पहनूंगा, जब बुड्ढे हो जाएंगे तो खादी पहनूंगा. Now if you see what's happening over here, right, the solution is cool designs that the store is trying to sell. The need here is to look cool. But if you go to the inside, beyond that, the need of looking cool, the inside is that I want to be acceptable.
Right.
That is why you will wear khadi in a particular gathering, जहाँ पे you feel that I will be acceptable. हर कोई उस ड्रेस में होगा, तो मैं comfortable हूँ खादी पहनने में, right? But वही मैं किसी और कॉन्टेक्स्ट में चला जाता हूँ, where I will not be acceptable. So same khadi that looks cool in one kind of gathering is no more cool in another kind of gathering. So I think that why focus has to be there as well.
Excellent, Ismail. Your examples quite resonate with the audience, I'm sure. So, yeah, I think that leads us to another aspect of startup domain. Basically, how to know your competitors better. What are the alternative solutions in your space? How to identify them? So, I would go to Kalyani here first, and then Madhav certainly has ideas about it. So, Kalyani, you want to take this question up front?
Sure.
Basically, how to identify your competition and alternative solutions customers use today.
Yeah. So I'm just going to answer this with a quick example. There was a startup who wanted to make laddus, small laddus as a quick healthy snack for people on the go. So that was their position, right? A quick healthy snack for people on the go. The laddus were really very tiny, these bite size, you can just pop them in your mouth. And for them, the customer or the target segment was people who are, on the field, on the go, have no time to stop and take a proper meal between, probably 2 client visits. Or even when you're working from home these days, now Zoom calls are back to back, right? So you don't even have the time to get up, go to the kitchen, make yourself a cup of tea. So is there something that you can quickly put in your mouth? So the problem identified here was they did not have time to get up and make something healthy, right? And if you don't have health, because people now are very conscious of their health. So people do not want to have like a samosa or a vada pav. And vada pavची गाडी दिसली चल मी एक वडा पाव खातो, एक समोसा उचलतो, किंवा मी एक शेवपुरीच खाऊन टाकते, मला खूप भूक लागली आहे पण माझ्याकडे काही हेल्दी खायला नाहीये जे मी पटकन खाऊ शकते, that kind of a thing. So the competition for the ladus was not other ladu brands that you get, but it was a vada pav, it was samosa, it was a handful of nuts, it was kera, a banana which you would, even pick up and eat. So when you look at competition or alternative solutions, you should not only look for the products in that particular space. So not ladu versus ladu, but here it's ladu versus a kera, banana, a ladu versus a handful of nuts, a ladu versus a vada pav, a samosa. So your competition increases, and then you figure out how your product or your service is better. How does it help solve the problem in a better, easier, more convenient way than your competition? So your competition is not just, another brand of ladu, right?
So competition may not be visible upfront. Yeah, you need to dig deeper, find the right competition for
Who
you,
else is
and
solving
then
the
provide
same problem?
solution.
Correct. Who else
Right.
is solving the same problem is the question you need to answer, basically.
Right. Excellent. Madhav, you must be having some ideas about it, how to
Absolutely.
identify competitor and how we can be better than them, right? That's the core question here.
मी एक थोडा वेगळा विचार मांडतो.
Okay.
तुम्ही कॉम्पिटिशन आयडेंटिफाय करायच्या मागे लागलात तर आय थिंक यू माइट गेट इट राईट, यू माइट गेट इट रॉंग. ओके, बट जसं कल्याणी म्हणाली किंवा तू म्हणालास तसं जो प्रॉब्लेम आहे, आपण नेहमी म्हणतोय की आयडेंटिफाय द प्रॉब्लेम यू वॉन्ट टू सॉल्व, आयडेंटिफाय द प्रॉब्लेम विच नीड्स टू बी सॉल्व, and don't invent a problem that you want to solve. Okay, so there is a difference between these. आणि कल्याणी म्हणाल तसं कॉम्पिटिशन कुठूनही येऊ शकते. आम्ही आमच्या कोहोर्ट 1 मध्ये ना एक ग्रामी पे नावाची स्टार्टअप होती, अँड आय वॉज लकी टू बी अ मेंटर फॉर दॅट ग्रामी पे. And they are into the payment like any other GPay, UPI. They are into the payment startup. When we did a lot of groundwork, competition कोण आहे माहितीये? GPay is not the competition. Paytm is not the competition. Apple Pay is not the competition. Even Bheem is not the competition. त्यांची competition आहे cash. So now suddenly the paradigm changes, right? The moment if we were to look at GPay, we would have gone and figured out what are the features GPay offers. If we would have considered Apple Pay as the competitor, we would have found what Apple has to offer as a payment system, or even WhatsApp Pay. We could have focused on the features more than the problem that needs to be solved. And suddenly the moment we realize the cash is the competitor, the whole conversation change. की लोक कॅश का देतात? कन्व्हिनियन्स साठी देतात. लोक कॅश का देतात? कारण त्यांना कदाचित ती ट्रान्झॅक्शन वेगळ्या पद्धतीने दाखवायची असतात. So there could be a lot of other things. So your competitor is not necessarily your competitor product. Like कल्याणी म्हणाली की एका लाडूचा कॉम्पिटिटर हा दुसरा लाडू नाहीये. त्या लाडूचा कॉम्पिटिटर कदाचित वडी पण असू शकेल. So it can happen, and it can come from anywhere. Similarly, if I want to quote one more example just to help understand that how to understand where the competition is coming from, and like Abhijit said, look at the customer feedback or look at what people are talking about it. So rather than trying to find out what competitor has to offer, find out what is it that your competitor is not offering, so that becomes your next. आणि मी नेहमी सगळ्यांना सांगतो की इथे विविध प्रकारचे स्टार्टअप आहेत आपल्याकडे. काही लोक अगदी आयडिएशन लेवलला असतील, काही लोक बऱ्यापैकी ऍडव्हान्स असतील, काही लोक तर 5 वर्ष कदाचित बिझनेस करत पण असतील. आणि जसं आपण गरजे मराठीमध्ये नेहमी म्हणतो की वी हेल्प यू अचीव्ह युअर नेक्स्ट. मग प्रत्येकाचा नेक्स्ट हा वेगळा असू शकतो. माझा नेक्स्ट वेगळा आहे, समीरचा नेक्स्ट वेगळा आहे, कल्याणीचा नेक्स्ट वेगळा आहे. व्हॉट इज युअर नेक्स्ट? तसंच तुम्ही ज्या वेळेला प्रॉब्लेम सॉल्व्ह करताय, what is the next problem you want to solve? So if you focus on your next rather than your competitor's next, I think you will get it right. And that is where again it keeps going back to empathy, story, insight, said needs, unsaid needs. I believe you will be better prepared for your own and you compete with your own solution. You want to find out a new solution of your own rather than solution of your competitor. I feel that is how you should be looking at it.
That's perfect. Yeah. So there are Very good
Samir,
pointers here about.
can I just
Yeah,
add a
sure.
couple of points here very quickly?
Sure, Abhijit. Yeah.
Since Kalyani brought up a very interesting point, right? This example,
Yep.
the Ladu is not a replacement for another Ladu brand, right? You're looking at replacing other multiple products, right? So you're, in a sense, you're also expanding your target addressable market, right?
Correct.
So you're kind of looking at a broader set of customer segments, right? So you're not narrowing down, but you're actually expanding the possibilities for your product to kind of meet. So that's, I just wanted to highlight that point. And even I just want to kind of take a current example from my current employer, Amazon, right? We one of the tenets that we go with is that never be competition obsessed, be customer obsessed, right? So not a single presentation document we talk about competition, we talk about customer, right? Always kind of work backwards from the customer needs. So that's something that I just want to add to this point.
Excellent, Abhijit. And I want to come to you with the next question as well. What are the different tools available for the startup companies to use this DT approach? What kind of tools you come across and would prescribe or suggest? Yeah. So
Sure,
maybe
sure.
Abhijit, to you first, and then we'll go to Ismail as well. Yeah.
Sure, Nakki. And I've been doing this for the last 25 years, and I've seen tools come and go, right? But what hasn't changed is the basic core construct of design and design thinking. So I want to kind of first state that out, that don't get obsessed with the tools, right? Be obsessed with the methodology itself, right? And get married to the methodology, not to the tool. So that's the first thing that I wanted to kind of share. The second thing that I want to talk about a little bit about tool is that, tools help you with documenting the work, right? So it becomes a referenceable artifact. It's a document, it's an evidence. It helps you kind of document your insights and decisions. And it's a very important mechanism, right? So make sure that you're using the right tools and you're documenting the work as you kind of go along. And the tools also ensure that you're following the process, right? So if you're getting confused, if you're not sure what you should be doing, you should always fall back on a process and then look for the tools that can help you get out of that situation, right? So I would kind of start there. There are multiple tools, and to be honest, you start with Google and now increasingly ChatGPT, right? Those are the great tools to kind of start with. In fact, I was reading an article, you should do Google, right? And Google became like it pretty much became like a word. Why don't you Google, right? To Google current tula sapadel kaitari, right? ChatGPT has come and completely disrupted that, right? Google gives you a set of links. And as a user, you still need to do a lot of work, clicking through multiple links and trying to figure out a solution, right?
You have to choose finally, yeah.
ChatGPT is going to give you don't have to do any of that, right? You
Right,
kind of
right.
tell the machine and it's going to kind of go and do its magic and then come up with a recipe, right? I was just experimenting this afternoon, ChatGPT lo माझ्याकडे पालक आहे, पनीर आहे, टोमॅटो हे आहे, की कुठली भाजी इंडियन किंवा एशियन रेसिपी सांग मला. And ChatGPT gave me 2-3 recipes, right? So
Yeah.
I think those are the tools that all of us should be thinking about. Apart from that, I'm sure, I think along the 18-week course, right, to me, a program, you will get some workbook. I believe, you'll get some templates that you can use to go through empathy phase. How can you kind of, document your understanding of users, right? There are templates, tools like, customer profiles, user personas, journey maps. I don't want to kind of get into the details of that because I'm sure you're going to get all that help from this program. But there are simple tools. I think, Madhav, you mentioned about ideation wall, right? Yes. Just having that one ideation wall every day, every morning you come and kind of stick your thought, right? I've also used mind maps. I have used mood boards, right? Customer feedback, we talked about it. I think one of the most often asked question to me is, what kind of prototyping tools, I should use, right? And there again, right, there are some variety of prototyping tools. मी तर एकदा नाटक पण बसवलेलं आहे as a prototype to show, the interaction between an auditor and a client and the auditing team, right? छोटी एक 5 मिनिटाची skit बनवली आणि everyone played their role and everyone could see the problems and how the problems can be solved with a new process. right? So videos असतात, sketches असतात, you can make some low fidelity, even models बनवतात, तुम्ही पुठ्यापासून model बनवू शकता. So there are
Yep.
multiple ways you can prototype your ideas. आणि टेस्टिंग मध्ये पण तुम्ही doing A/B testing, or you can do design walkthroughs, right? Validating using different techniques, right? Data analytics, of course, if any of you are into a software or technology product, you can definitely use data to get the real-time feedback and testing and validation. So those are some of the ideas that I have, but I'm sure you will, explore your own, create your own toolkit that works for you.
Absolutely, Abhijit. So I just take one point which needs to be elaborated further. I think we are not good at keeping records. That is what comes to my mind when you said you have to write down whatever you're thinking, whatever you're progressing with, right? That becomes like a repository to go back to, right? So you want to say something about that? How people can keep the records and note down things?
Yeah, absolutely. And I again kind of want to go back to the collaborative nature of design and
Right.
design thinking. Even you're a startup, sometimes you're alone and you may not have a big team, but just writing things down for yourself, just documenting and creating those records is so important, right? And as you kind of start assembling the team around it, it becomes even more important to kind of have that kind of knowledge somewhere documented, right? Who is your target market, right? What solution are you going to kind of come up with, right? What is your go-to-market strategy, right? What have you tried in past and not and have failed? Documenting even your failures is very, very important, right?
Absolutely.
So you know that you have tried this and now you want to kind of try something else. So again, big fan of documentation. So
perfect. Yeah. So just wanted to elaborate that. Yeah. Thank you for that. Ismail, you want to add something on this front?
Yeah, so I guess
you want to say,
covered pretty much.
empathize, define. Yeah.
Yeah, almost everything. But in addition to the tools that he directly indirectly mentioned, I believe there are three very powerful natural tools that we have been gifted, right? And all this, coincidentally, all these three tools starts with the H. So we have the head, we have the heart, and we have the hand, right?
Right.
And the order, usually the order is, typically the order is head, then hand, and we time mila to heart. In design thinking, we go the other way around. We say we start with the heart. The entire empathy phase is all about the heart. So you start with the heart, right? And then you put in the define phase, you put your mind over their head. And hand is all about your prototyping, right? So you use the hand, you build over there. And so I think those three, if used properly, all the other tools will complement the journey. And in addition to the templates, there are so many tools, as Abhijit was mentioning. So some of the tools that were coming to my mind, especially in the empathy phase, what we normally do is, of course, we conduct interviews and surveys and we observe. But beyond that, also there are websites. So there's a website called Google Trends, where if I just go and put the keyword organic food or some whatever product I'm trying to come up with, it gives me the entire trend analysis, how many searches have happened for that particular word in the past week, past month. It gives you country-wise, state-wise, district-wise data as well. So it also helps you analyze which should be my first state where I launch my product, where the search has more. Similarly, there are products available. There's a website called similarweb.com. I think it gives you the entire analytics of all the websites in your domain, right? So if I'm creating another e-commerce website, it will give me the entire analytics. Amazon का traffic कहाँ से आ रहा है, Flipkart का social media से कितने clicks आ रहे हैं. So in a way, I can reverse engineer all my strategies without having to start it from scratch. So if you do just a little bit of Googling, there are tools available across all the phases of design thinking. Apart from the templates like empathy map and journey map and all those templates we anyways use, but these digital tools also can help a lot.
Great, Ismail. So let's go forward with the next aspect of, or the most important aspect of design thinking, which is human-centered approach, right? And here I see quite often that startup companies look at their domain. Is it B2C, B2B, B2G, business to government, business to companies, corporations, or business to customers? Yeah. So here, when we say human-centered approach, it is not limited to individual customers, I believe, because even the institutions, if I see from my economics angle and the history which we see and which we read, even if you think about a subprime problem, for example, back in the US sometime in 2008-9. What was the crux of that problem? The problem was everybody was thinking, even the institutions, that everyone in America should own a house. It doesn't come that way, and we had to pay a big price for that. The entire world market went into a tailspin. So here, people must have thought, every American should have a house, whether it is whether he has the ability to repay that loan or not. Loans were given and people built their houses. Finally, they have to be auctioned. Yeah. So human-centered approach can even apply for customers, individual customers, or as well as organized customers, institutions, governments at some times, and even the companies. What are your thoughts, Madhav, on this human-centered approach, and how design thinking helps better than the system-centric approach, for example? Yeah.
So Samir, जसं Ismail म्हणाला की we start with heart. Now heart is a reflection of a human being a living human, right? And if we once accept that, that means everything has to be the human in nature. Everything has to be centering around the human and not keeping human on the periphery. Okay.
Right.
So with this concept, let's look at some example. मला असं वाटतं की या विषयावरती तर हा human centered approach itself can become a topic of one day.
Yeah.
पण तरी पण मी काही एक्झाम्पल सांगतो की कसं सिस्टम वर्सेस ह्युमन डिझाईन गेट इन्फ्लुएन्स्ड. मी काही बँकेमधली उदाहरणं देतो, काही दुसरी उदाहरणं देतो. आता जर बँकेचं उदाहरण द्यायचं झालं तर मी ज्या वेळेला लहान होतो त्यावेळेला मी बँकेत जायचो, मी डिपॉझिट स्लिप भरायचो, मी विड्रॉल स्लिप भरायचो, मी चेक भरायचो, हे सगळं भरायचो. आता हे कुठून आलं? म्हणजे आय डिड समथिंग अँड आय वॉज बिंग अ बँकर. आय हॅड अन ऑपॉर्च्युनिटी टू गो डीप इन टू सम RBI डॉक्युमेंटेशन अँड समथिंग अराउंड इट. Now, this didn't come from banking system. It came from the Institute of Chartered Accountants. They needed an evidence. आता हे कसं इन्फ्लुएन्स होतं बघा. So now the audit firms are asking for evidence. The only way to retain that evidence was to make somebody feel a slip and retain it because it would get retained for ages. Now we are in 2023. आपण अजूनही बँकेत गेल्यानंतर डिपॉझिट स्लिप भरतो, आपण अजूनही बँकेत गेल्यानंतर चेक लिहितो. Now, is that a real requirement? Now, for me, it is a requirement driven by system needs. And when I say system, don't confuse system with computer system. System is anything, rules around us. System is the ecosystem we are in. System is the organization. System is the institution. System is the compliance, government, everything. So human-centered approach could have been, ठीक है, आता now that we have gone digital, you just hand over a cash to a cashier. Cashier enters that denomination into their computer system, generates the slips and gives it to you. Becomes a human-centered design versus system-centered design. आता ज्या इथे महिला आहेत त्या इव्हन आपण पण सगळेजण पूर्वी सॉसच्या बॉटल होत्या त्या कशा होत्या, अशा उभ्या बॉटल होत्या, त्याला वरती झाकण असायचं, तर शेवटचा सॉस झटकून काढायला लागायचा, बरोबर आहे. I have not seen that any other way. आणि पण आपण तर we being a rational consumer, we want to consume even the last drop of that tomato sauce in the bottle.
Even there was an advert around that.
Correct. So now that same design has undergone a change.
Yep.
Now a lot of sauce bottles are upside down. So they use a natural law of gravity to make sure that the last drop of sauce automatically comes to the dispenser part. त्याच्या पुढे जाऊन आता तर प्लास्टिक किंवा त्या पाउचेस मधून हल्ली सॉस येतात, ऍटलीस्ट इंडियात तर नक्की येतात. इट इज सो इझी. म्हणजे जसं आपण टूथपेस्ट कशा रोल करून शेवटची टूथपेस्ट काढतो की नाही, तसं आता सॉस ते पण नाही करायला लागत. यू कॅन लिटरली स्क्वीज अँड ऍक्च्युअली कन्झ्युम द एव्हरीथिंग. नाउ जस्ट लुक ॲट हाऊ द डिझाईन चेंज. अगेन ह्युमन सेंटर्ड, की ह्युमन नीड काय होती की मला तो सॉस शेवटच्या थेंबापर्यंत खायचा आहे, राईट? दॅट वॉज द ह्युमन नीड. आणि तू म्हणालास तसं की इव्हन इफ इट इज अ B2B, कारण हा प्रश्न आपल्याकडे नेहमी येतो स्टार्टअप्स, या बट यू नो व्हॉट, आय डोंट हॅव एनी एंड कस्टमर, माय प्रॉडक्ट इज B2B. पण बिझनेसमध्ये डिसिजन घेणारे पण ह्युमन्स असतात. सो यू हॅव टू ऑलवेज कीप इट इन माइंड दॅट देर इज नथिंग लाईक B2B. इट इज ऑलवेज H2H. इट इज ह्युमन टू ह्युमन. So the moment we accept that and the moment we acknowledge that it is human to human, you will always find your entire design is going to undergo a sea change. And that's what I think everybody has to remember. I think I'll take a pause here. But as
That's
we keep
perfect,
going
yeah.
across 18 weeks, whenever we get an opportunity, we will keep touching upon how this gets influenced.
Yeah, any of the panelists would like to add here? Abhijit, Ismail. Yeah, Ismail first.
I just want to add a small bit, a small story just to know to concretize this as a memory in the mind side.
Yeah, sure.
When we talk about systematic thinking, so there was this collector who was once traveling at the outskirts of the city in a car. And morning में while he was going, he saw two men at the roadside. पहला वाला इंसान was digging holes, कुल्हाड़ी से खड्डे खोद के आगे जा रहा है. And उसके पीछे पीछे से another guy coming, वो उस खड्डे में मिट्टी वापस डाल रहा है. So this guy was constantly चल क्या रहा है? एक खड्डा खोद रहा है, पीछे से दूसरा आके मिट्टी डाल देता है. Evening when he was coming back to the same road, he saw the same thing happening. So वो collector था रहा नहीं गया, तो he asked the driver to stop the car, went and said, "What's happening?" तो ये सेड कि हम लोग भी वर्क फॉर अ कॉन्ट्रैक्टिंग कंपनी एंड हमारी कंपनी को कॉन्ट्रैक्ट मिला इस रोड पे पेड़ लगाने का. ये जो पहला बंदा है उसको काम मिला था खड्डे खोदने का. माय जॉब इज टू पुट द सॉइल आफ्टर द प्लांट इज पुट. द सेकंड गाय जिसका जॉब वो प्लांट लगाने का था वो छुट्टी पे. हम दोनों अपना अपना काम कर रहे हैं, वो जब आएगा अपना कर. So that's what I'm like. Two system focus and the core job to be done that we talked about. Yogesh sir mentioned in the chat also. When that is ignored, that is one danger over there.
Sure. Abhijit, you wanted to say something?
No, I think to be honest, nothing to. I think Madhav and Ismail really eloquently put that right. I think it's human to human. Most of my work is in enterprise space, very complex problems, industry problems, but ultimately it is always about who's the human who needs that solution, right? So
right. Who is that you?
Your focus.
Yeah. Kalyani, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree. Covered beautifully by Madhav, Ismail, Abhijit. Yeah, I mean, it's very, very human centric, driven by consumer behavior or human behavior rather than anything else. So that's where we should be constantly looking at, basically, customer.
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So I think we are almost very close to our end of panel discussion, but I have a couple of questions, and looking at the time, I think we have about 8-10 minutes in hand, considering the time at the start. We have got about 60 minutes, right? So we're doing okay on the time. So I would like to ask this question to Madhav, and this is like ubiquitous question about the startup ecosystem, right? What are the main reasons why startups fail? And all our approach should be, and also the Garje Marathi cohort and various cohorts we have done before, the focus has been that how we can reduce that failure percentile, or how we can enhance the success factor. So how do you see this design thinking helping our startup companies in the cohort so that they don't fall in the trap of 90%, as some people call it, even 95% failures out of 100? Madhav? Thanks.
So thank you, Ismail. So मी काही data सांगणार आहे. I think it is an important, and it is not to scare you as a startup, but you need to be aware that what could make you fail, so that we know how to avoid them or how to risk mitigate that. So आम्ही नेहमी म्हणतो की डिझाईन थिंकिंग हा जसा थॉट प्रोसेस आहे, तशीच डिझाईन थिंकिंग हे रिस्क मिटिगेशन टूल पण आहे, रिस्क आयडेंटिफिकेशन टूल पण आहे, आणि रिस्क मॅनेजमेंट टूल पण आहे. ओके, सो फर्स्ट लेट्स अंडरस्टँड दॅट. पण आज तुम्हाला मी 2022चा काही डेटा सांगतो. 10% ideas in 2022 did not succeed. Okay, then 90% of new startups failed in 2022. 75% even venture-backed startups failed. Then less than 50% of business could make it to their 5th year of constant running of business. Then there are less than 32%. There are less than 32% business which went up to 10 years of successful business, and even less than 30% startup became profitable. आता बघा याच्यामध्ये सगळं झालं. याच्यामध्ये कोणीतरी प्रश्न विचारलाय की प्रॉफिटेबल कसं व्हायचं, कोणीतरी विचारलं सस्टेन कसं व्हायचं वगैरे वगैरे. सो आता आपण एक पटकन रिकॅप बघूया की रिझन ऑफ फेल्युअर्स, का फेल होतात स्टार्टअप, how design thinking identifies these failure possibilities and how it helps to mitigate those. 5 मेजर कारण आहेत की बिझनेस फेल का होतात किंवा स्टार्टअप फेल का होतात. सगळ्यात पहिलं कारण असतं ते म्हणजे डिस्कनेक्ट विथ कस्टमर्स. सो तुम्हाला वाटतं की हे मार्केटमध्ये मला विकायचं आहे किंवा मला ही मार्केटमध्ये सर्व्हिस आणायची आहे, कस्टमरला त्याची गरजच नाहीये. सो देर इज अ व्हेरी व्हेरी क्लिअर डिस्कनेक्ट. आणि दॅट इज वाय आपली जी पहिली एम्पथी फेज आहे, that empathy phase will help you to revalidate the need which you think is a need. आणि मी पहिल्यांदा म्हटलं तसं की don't try to solve problem which you can solve. Try to solve problem which needs to be solved. Okay, तर सगळ्यात पहिले राईट आयडेंटिफिकेशन ऑफ प्रॉब्लेम itself is the first success factor for any startup and which design thinking empathy phase will help you. दुसरी गोष्ट असते फेल होण्याची, ती म्हणजे फेल्युअर टू कम्युनिकेट द रिअल व्हॅल्यू. की तुम्हाला असं वाटतं की आम्ही व्हॅल्यू क्रिएशन करतोय, पण देर इज ऑलवेज अ डिफरन्स बिटवीन द व्हॅल्यू पीपल पे अँड द व्हॅल्यू पीपल गेट. आणि आम्ही नेहमी म्हणतो की परसिव्ड व्हॅल्यू ही जोपर्यंत फायनान्शियल व्हॅल्यू पेक्षा जास्त आहे तोपर्यंत तुमचं प्रॉडक्ट चांगलं काम करतंय. ज्या दिवशी तुमची परसिव्ड व्हॅल्यू ही पेड व्हॅल्यूच्या खालती जाईल त्या दिवशी तुमचं डाऊनफॉल चालू होईल. सो यू हॅव टू फाइंड आउट व्हॉट दॅट परसिव्ड व्हॅल्यू इज अँड व्हॉट दॅट व्हॅल्यू क्रिएशन इज, and should be also in a position to communicate that to your customers. तिसरी गोष्ट असते that is not able to excite the community. See, you are not here to excite one customer. You need to have the big platform of customers, big quantum of customers, and which is a community that you should be in a position to excite. Only then you will have a constant product and sales and services and everything to be done. A quick example. 6 वर्षापूर्वी आपल्याकडे स्टार्टअप तर नेहमीच होत्या, म्हणजे त्याला स्टार्टअप नाव द्यायचं की नाही द्यायचं कायमच होत्या. पण 5-6 वर्षापूर्वी गव्हर्नमेंटनी ज्या वेळेला स्टार्टअप इंडिया, मेक इन इंडिया हे ज्या वेळेला फॉर्मली सुरू केलं आणि सगळीकडे त्याच्याबद्दल सांगायला सुरुवात केली, इट एक्साइटेड द होल कंट्री ऑफ 1.3 बिलियन पॉप्युलेशन. सो द एंटायर कम्युनिटी बिकेम एक्साइटेड अबाउट इट, राईट? सो excite your community. A failure to excite your community could be third reason of failure. The fourth possible reason to fail is inability to show the profitable business. See, design thinking चे 3 construct असतात. पहिला construct असतो desirability, which is your heart. दुसरा construct असतो feasibility, which is your hand. And तिसरा construct असतो viability, which is your head. Okay? So you have to be viable. Finally, end of the day, all of us are in business to make money and to make profit and continue to make profit for a longer duration of time. So if you now look at the entire DT construct, you have empathy, define, then you do an ideation, you do prototyping, and you do testing. Empathy helps you to understand and connect with your customers. Your define and ideation helps you to keep exciting your community and find out what is the real value you want to deliver to your customer. Then your prototyping and testing helps you to keep going back to your customer, continuously take feedback from the customers and make sure that your product is always sellable. There is always a product to market fit available, and that will make you sustain. So I think look at design thinking as a thought, look at design thinking as an approach. Look at design thinking as a very powerful tool for risk identification, risk mitigation, risk management. And like Abhijit said in the beginning, it is not a one-off affair. So you can't say कि मी पहिला 1 महिना design केला and now I will forget. No, it is a everyday business. And you can apply your design thinking abilities, design thinking approaches, not only to your product development, but also to your operations, but also to your service, also to your marketing, also to your compliance, every single thing. I think I'll take a pause here, but that's how you should be
Fantastic.
looking at.
I think we will go around the panel and ask this one simple question. Answer may not be that simple, but important thing is, what would be the takeaway for the Amrut cohort? What is your tip going to be for our cohort of 75 startups? And then we will open this forum to the questions. Anandji also has raised hand. So we'll go to him first, maybe around the panel. Abhijit first, what is your tip for the cohort?
If it's just one thing, can I say 3 things?
Yeah, sure.
I would say,
As long as it becomes one.
Yeah. I'm going to say one thing, but I'm going to say it 3 times, right? Test, test, and test. I think
Okay.
that is really testing at every step, testing everything that you do, testing, your product, your first idea. One of the mantras that I follow is never get married to your first idea, never get married to your first version of the product, right? So always test, test early, test often, and that will be my tip.
Powerful. Kalyani, what you would like to say?
Very close to what Abhijit said, actually. I would just say, get over your fear of failure. So don't have this fear of failure, get over it and get over it fast. If a lot of people fear negative feedback, की मी हे जाऊन कोणाला दाखवलं किंवा माझ्या product बद्दल बोलले तर लोकांना हे आवडणार नाही. पण ही चांगली गोष्ट आहे. ही तुम्हाला feedback खूप आधी मिळणं चांगली गोष्ट आहे, so that you can pivot, you can change, you can think of something else, right? So get over the fear of failure. It's good to fail, and it's good to fail early on, so that you're not wasting time, money, resources in building something that nobody wants, right? So yeah, get over the fear of failure and test your products early on.
Fantastic. Ismail?
Yeah, so following up on both the earlier tips, actually, I usually say, if you're talking about design thinking, never follow tips, because design thinking is all about missing. It gives an essence of flavor of shortcuts which are really do not exist. But one tip, we are carrying on the concept of testing. To test, your product, you need a prototype, and when you create the prototype, keep that in mind. The purpose of the prototype is to express what you're trying to do, what you're trying to build with your customers, and not to impress it. So when you take the prototype to the customer for testing, be open to learn, be neutral. Do not try to impress upon the customers that, okay, this is what I have done. Isn't this an amazing product? Don't you like this color? Isn't this cool? That's not your purpose. Your purpose is to extract from them what they actually think about it, so that you can learn it, come back and iterate on that.
Fantastic. Yeah. Madhav?
See, understanding needs is important, okay? But understanding the story behind that needs is even more important. So please never ever miss the story. Story is the most remembered part in life. माझ्या आजीनी सांगितलेली मी 2 वर्षाचा असतानाची स्टोरी माझ्या अजूनही लक्षात आहे. So stories are remembered far longer and far more impactful than reading a book. So never miss a story. Story will help you to be a successful.
Excellent. Madhav, Ismail, Kalyani, and Abhijit, your contribution to this panel has been enormous. I think startup cohort would benefit out of it. What I could summarize on is basically design thinking is in your nature. So keep coming back to it all the time and entire your journey. So with that thought, I think I would like to take a pause. I would call the main panel discussion is over. We would go to the Q&A sessions if there are any representative questions for entire cohort. Devdutt, have you come across something? I've seen something on the SaaS, but before that, Anandji raised the hand. So Anandji, you would like to say something?
Sorry, I joined late, but actually I can come at the end also. You can finish Q&A.
Sure.
And then let us stick to the pattern. Let us stick to the pattern. Okay.
Absolutely. Devdutt?
Yeah, so one question to the panel from Mayur Gazare. So you gave a lot of examples about how design thinking can be applied to various industries, right? Right from Ladu to, Khadi Bhandar to companies like Apple, and how they use design thinking to do all their processes in their startup and now big companies. So Mayur wants to know, do you have any specific examples how design thinking was applied to SaaS or gaming industry? If you can, elaborate a bit and give some examples on that. Anyone from the panel?
Abhijit,
yeah, sure. I can start, and then maybe a few others can add as well, right? So I think a great question, right? Something which is obviously closer to my work as well, because a lot of my work is enterprise SaaS area, and I think it is. I mean, if you look at the whole idea of software as a subscription, but I would drop software piece because I think everything in life is now becoming subscription based, right? Even you don't have to buy or lease a car, you can subscribe to a car, right? That's where the world is going, right? So you basically have some kind of a monthly or yearly kind of a subscription, and that's how you kind of start consuming a product and a service. So it's a very different way of selling or creating a product as well as selling your product, right? And very often what I do is, when I'm designing the product, right? Obviously you are looking at, there are three things that I often look at when I'm designing SaaS products, right? One is, first of all, is it useful, right? And kind of going back to the assured framework, right? Is it useful? Is it even solving the problem? Is it even needed, right, in the market, right? And the question that I ask is, will they do it, right? Will the users actually use it, right? So will do is the first one. The second one that I often look at is once you know that they need it, then can they use it, right? And that's where we focus on usability aspect of it, right? So can they do it, right? So they need it, and can they do it now? Can they use it? And the third aspect that becomes very important when it comes to SaaS or even gaming, right, is engagement, right? Are they still doing it, right? Not just after first use, but are they continue to use the product? Is the product part of how they live their personal as well as their professional lives, right? That is the engagement that we're kind of looking at, right? And then based on that engagement, the engagement is not just going to happen based on the need and the features that you're releasing, right? It's based on, are you staying ahead of the customer needs, right? So you're not just meeting the customer needs, but you're exceeding the customer needs, right? And that is a very fundamental to SaaS, right? Because if you're not staying ahead of the customer need, you will start seeing your drop off. You'll start seeing a drop off in your ARR and other engagements, right? So making sure that you're constantly kind of using your design thinking toolkit to understand the changing behavior, and especially if you're in SaaS or gaming, data is your friend, right? You have tons and tons of data that is coming to you, and making sure that you're using it. But don't just rely on the data. I want to kind of go back to what Madhav said. Data will tell you what has happened. Data will not tell you why it has happened. So you need to kind of go and understand what those stories are, right? So important that you again go back and look at those stories, do your research, observe users using the products, whether it's a SaaS or a gaming platform.
That's nice. That's nice.
So I will just add to एक फक्त उदाहरण देतो मी की पुस्तक वाचणं ही लेटंट नीड आहे किंवा हे इन्साइट आहे आणि ज्ञान मिळवणं हे जर एकदा लक्षात घेतलं तर सॅस मॉडेलमध्ये सुद्धा कशी इनोव्हेशन होतात सांगतो. लायब्ररी पूर्वी असायची जिथे मी जायचो, सबस्क्रिप्शन होते ना, मी मंथली फी भरतो, लायब्ररीची काय 10 रुपये फी असायची, त्या लायब्ररीत मी जायचो. मग त्याच्यानंतर त्याच्यामध्ये कोणाला तरी लक्षात आलं की आता मी पूर्वी रोज यायचो, आता मी आठवड्यातनं एकदा येतो, आता तर महिन्यातनं एकदा येतो. मग फिरती लायब्ररी सुरू झाली, फिरती वाचनालय सुरू झालं. कोणीतरी माझ्या घरी येऊन सायकलवरनं किंवा स्कूटरवरनं येऊन पुस्तक देऊन जायचा. सबस्क्रिप्शन तीच होती, फक्त आता कदाचित 10 रुपयाची ऐवजी 50 रुपये झाली. त्याच्यानंतर मग नेक्स्ट आलं की मला आता फिरती लायब्ररी पण नाही, तुमच्या सोसायटीतच आणून आम्ही ट्रंक पेटी ठेवू, ती महिन्याच्या महिन्याला रिप्लेस होईल आणि तुम्हीच तुमच्या इथे येऊन तुमची पुस्तकं बघा. दर आठवड्याला दर महिन्याला ती ट्रंक बदलली जाईल, नवीन पुस्तकं तुम्हाला मिळतील, एक 5-50. परत मॉडेल बदललं, सबस्क्रिप्शन तेच राहिलं. सो इफ आय कन्सिडर लायब्ररी ॲज अ सॅस, इट इज अ सबस्क्रिप्शन मॉडेल हॅज ऑलवेज बीन फॉर मेनी इयर्स. आता किंडल अनलिमिटेड तेच आहे माझ्या दृष्टीने, ती ई लायब्ररीच आहे. सो व्हॉट आय एम ट्राइंग टू ओनली टेल यू की पुस्तकं वाचणे आणि ज्ञान मिळवणे हे जर इन्साइट कायम लक्षात ठेवलं तर इव्हन सॅस मॉडेल मध्ये सुद्धा इनोव्हेशन होतात. सो ऑलवेज कीप दॅट इन माइंड.
Fantastic. Any other question, Devdatta, you would like to highlight from the chat box?
Yep. So we spoke about design thinking and how do you decide what to build and how to build and get customer feedback. But can design thinking be applied to explaining your customer what you are building? Like if you're building a difficult product, say in healthcare, is it possible to use design thinking principles to explain your product? This is a question from Krishnadas.
Can I attempt? So,
yeah, sure.
Krishnadas, thanks for asking this question. Because design thinking, जसं आम्ही म्हणतो that it is all starts with empathy. Empathy is story finding. When there is a story to find, there is also a story to tell. So when you try to find out a problem, you may not go and ask a problem to your user in a way that tell me what your problem is. Instead, you can narrate a story by yourself. And that will help you to supplement the story, and then the story, and then the story, and then the story. So design thinking very much helps even you to go and apply all those principles right at the early stage, right at the mid stage, right at the advanced stage, and still be in a position for you to get insights by telling the story and not just asking the story. It's story मध्ये खूप characters असतात ना, so one of the character can be you. And then you can ask somebody else to add, make that character as a part of your story. Then add few more characters, then add few more characters and make the story bigger. But the elements of story is still something you can use. It's up to you how wisely you want to use it. And precisely that is the reason I'm just going to give some tip, again, not a tip from the concept, but over next 18 weeks, this is exactly what Garje Marathi Amrut cohort will help you. We will keep demonstrating to you different stages through which all of the startups you are going to pass through. We will help you to find out how to pick up one topic every week. You will have some homework to be done. You will have interactions with your mentors. So the entire journey of this Amrut will enable you to use a lot of things, not just design thinking, but you can do that.
Certainly, Madhavji. So it's not only special for the startups, it is special for
It's
us
for everyone.
also,
Yeah.
running the JMG Amrut cohort. Yeah. So looking forward to all those steps in next 18 weeks, and maybe we can wrap it up with Anandji's remarks, and possibly if he may have a question.
Just one thing
he
to
can
add
go
here,
ahead.
for the questions that are not answered in this live discussion,
Yeah.
make sure that these questions are passed on to our panel here, and then we will send the answers over email and Slack. So don't worry if your question was not asked, we will make sure that your question is answered.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah. Anandji, your concluding remarks, please. Thank you.
So Anand, you are on mute.
Devdatta,
Yes. Actually, my job in this entire cohort is to stay mute only, so that's not wrong. Yeah. Okay. So anyway, I really sincerely thank our mentors and those who are our startups also, those who have joined. Special thanks to Samir Ketkar for taking his time. Actually, today is his working day, I suppose, but still he has managed that. And so मला 2-3 गोष्टी सांगायच्या होत्या की आम्ही जे हे आता जगभरचे जे मेंटर्स आपल्या स्टार्टअप साठी एकत्र येत आहेत, म्हणजे 4 कॉन्टिनेंट मधून आपण एकत्र आलेलो आहोत आणि प्रत्येक जण आपापल्या क्षेत्रात अत्यंत मोठा माणूस आता वेळ येतो. तर माझं असं म्हणणं आहे, आपल्या सगळ्या स्टार्टअपने याचा मॅक्सिमम फायदा घेण्यासाठी म्हणजे पाठी नका राहू, पण जे काय तुम्हाला ते सांगतायत ते त्याच्यावरती तुमच्या स्वतःच्या आयडिया लढवून आजचा डिझाईन थिंकिंग किंवा आयडिएशन वरती आपण का घेतला पाहिला, तर त्या सगळ्याच गोष्टी त्याच्यावरती अवलंबून आहेत. सो माझ्या सगळ्या स्टार्टअपनं असं म्हणणं की रिव्हिजिट युअर स्टार्टअप, डझंट मॅटर, इट इज नथिंग रॉंग इन दॅट, आणि असं कन्स्ट्रक्ट करा की मे बी यू कॅन ऍड सम मोर व्हॅल्यू. आणि आपल्या मेंटर्सना कॉन्टॅक्ट करायला घाबरू नका. आम्ही कधीही कशीही आपले मेंटर्स आउट ऑफ द वे जाऊन सुद्धा तुम्हाला मदत करतील, पण keep it in mind that your problem is not their problem. They are there to help you. म्हणजे हँड होल्डिंग म्हणजे खांद्यावर बसू नका, एवढंच मी सांगतो. म्हणजे आय एम लिटिल ब्लंट, बट वन हॅज टू बी प्रिपेअर्ड, वन हॅज टू प्रिपेअर फॉर दॅट. दुसरी अशी गोष्ट आहे की व्हाय इंग्लिश. काही जणांना आपल्याकडे इंटिरियर मधनं पण काही मुलं आहेत आणि त्यांना असं वाटत असेल की इतकं तुम्ही हाय लेवल इंग्लिश बोललात तर आम्हाला त्रास होणार आहे का. आम्ही याच्यावरती चर्चा ऍक्च्युअली केली होती, पण ह्या सिस्टीम मध्ये राहायचं असेल आणि तुम्हाला जर ग्लोबल इन्व्हेस्टरना भेटायचं असेल, इन्व्हेस्टर मे नॉट बी मराठी, यू सी. आपल्याकडे ते दुबई बरोबर आपलं कोलॅबोरेशन चालले, तो शेख आहे. त्याला तुम्ही मी माझ्या गावात काय करतो असं सांगितलं तर कळलं नाही. सो इंग्लिश हे प्रत्येकाला डेव्हलप केलंच पाहिजे, ग्लोबल लँग्वेज आहे. Maybe I might have missed some points because I just landed and I have joined this meeting. If there is a repetition, please excuse me.
No, you are on right track.
Yeah. So गोष्ट अशी आहे की जे तुम्ही आता ऐकलं माधवकडनं आणि सगळ्यांकडनं की पर्सेंटेज ऑफ फेल्युअर्स इज सो हाय. सो पर्सेंटेज ऑफ फेल्युअर्स इज हाय इफ यू डोंट हॅव गुड गुरु. पण आपल्या गरजे मराठी अमृतचा हेतूच आहे की आम्हाला आमच्यापैकी 95% स्टार्टअप्स पास व्हायला हवे. सो तुम्ही त्या दृष्टीने आपले जे मेंटर आहेत त्याच्यावरती पूर्ण तयारी करून त्यांचा पूर्ण फायदा घेऊन पुढे जा आणि स्लॅक वरती कम्प्लिटली ऍक्टिव्ह राहा. तुमच्या इतर स्टार्टअप्सना कनेक्ट करत राहा, एकमेकांशी आयडिया शेअर करा. इट इज बिंग प्रोएक्टिव्ह. मी 2 दिवसापूर्वी कुठेतरी मुंबईत होतो तेव्हा मी सांगितलंच होतं की मागायला लाजू नका आणि स्वतःविषयी बोलायला लाजू नका. ह्या 2 गोष्टी जर तुम्ही व्यवस्थित केल्यात, मागायला लाजू नका म्हणजे मागण्याशिवाय होतच नाही, ज्ञान मागणं हे सुद्धा मागणंच आहे ना. सो ह्या 2 गोष्टींसाठी लाजू नका. आपण जे करतोय ते सगळ्यांबरोबर शेअर करा. मे बी दोज युअर अदर फ्रेंड्स हु आर नॉट इन दिस कोर्ट, दे माइट गेट इन्स्पायर्ड. आज तुम्ही मेंटी आहात, आजपासून 6 महिन्यांनी कदाचित तुम्ही मेंटर बनू शकाल. सो एवढंच मला 2-4 गोष्टी सांगायचं. आणि स्लॅक वरती अतिशय ऍक्टिव्ह राहा. सगळं होमवर्क व्यवस्थित झालं पाहिजे. इंग्लिशला घाबरू नका. जर एखाद्या माणसाला काही गोष्ट कळली नाही इंग्लिशमध्ये तर न झिजकता मराठीत विचारा. पण इंग्लिश किंवा कन्व्हर्सेशन स्किल हे तर डेव्हलप केलंच पाहिजे. आफ्टर ऑल यू आर इन द मार्केटिंग. You have to market your product, you have to market your idea. With those few words, I thank Kalyani, I thank Abhijit, I thank Madhav, and of course Ismail, and Devdatta, Samir. Thank you very much. A good session. It is going to be a great session. आपल्या ह्या सेशनला महाराष्ट्र गव्हर्नमेंट कडनं खूपच रेकॉग्निशन मिळालेलं आहे. गोइंग अहेड ग्रांट्स मिळणं असेल, काही असेल, आपल्याला सहज शक्य होऊ शकेल. सो प्लीज शेअर विथ युअर फ्रेंड्स व्हॉट वी आर डुईंग अँड लेट अस progress and be successful. Thank you very much.
You're dot on time. Thank you, Anandji. So let's conclude the session and let's come back a week later. And in between, you can always connect with the mentors and also the panelists. Thank you.
सो 2च गोष्टी
धन्यवाद.
फक्त होत्या. पुढच्या आठवड्यापासून 2 तासाचा कोहोर्ट असणार आहे. तुम्हाला रिलीज केलेले व्हिडिओ, तुम्हाला दिलेला होमवर्क हा प्लीज करत जा. कारण तुम्ही जर तुमचा गृहपाठ करून आलात तर मेंटर बरोबरचे तुम्हाला जे 2 तास मिळणार आहेत दॅट विल बी मोर फ्रुटफुल. सो इट इज इम्पॉर्टंट दॅट यू डू युअर पार्ट, मेंटर्स विल डू देअर पार्ट. एक गोष्ट सगळ्यात महत्वाची प्लीज लक्षात ठेवा. आणि दुसरी गोष्ट तुम्ही लक्षात ठेवा, जसं आता आनंद सर पण म्हणाले, ऑल द मेंटर्स आर ऑलवेज रिचेबल, ऑल द मेंटर्स आर विलिंग टू हेल्प यू, but use the right way and right method to ask questions, that it doesn't get lost. It gets created as a record. It gets created as a documentation for the other startups to come forward. So please use whatever technology platforms which we have been asked to use, and let's continue with doing that. But thank you so much. And I must appreciate Samir, real sincere thanks to you, that I know it's a working day for you and you still made it. Thanks to my co-panelists. Anandji, तुम्हाला तर आमचे थँक्स नेहमीच असतात टू क्रिएट अँड बिल्ड दिस द एंटायर प्लॅटफॉर्म. अँड थँक्स एव्हरीवन. अँड आय थिंक वी ऑलवेज बिलीव्ह इन सेलिब्रेशन्स ॲज वेल. सो मला आता स्क्रीनवरती आपला एक मेंटर दिसतोय ज्याचा आज वाढदिवस आहे. सो आय थिंक इट कुड बी अ गुड आयडिया टू विश हिम अ हॅपी बर्थडे. मिलिंद कालिटकर, हॅपी बर्थडे टू यू. अँड आय थिंक दॅट्स अ गुड वे टू कन्क्लूड द सेशन. संजयजी, तुम्हाला पण थँक्स. वी लुक फॉरवर्ड फॉर युअर डायरेक्टरशिप फॉर रनिंग दिस कोर्स.
Just one quick announcement. I heard from a lot of people की कोणाला Slack अगर यूज करायला थोडा त्रास होतोय. So if you face any issues, please contact me. मी माझा ईमेल ऍड्रेस तुम्हाला मागच्या वीक मध्ये जे व्हिडिओ शेअर केले त्याच्यात दिलेला आहे. आणि if you already registered on Slack, you can also ping me there. तर प्लीज करा, and I will hold a session 101 session where I'll go over the basics of using Slack किंवा Zoom. If you need any help, please feel free to reach out to me. Okay, and next week आपण Zoom breakout rooms use करणार आहे. So there are plenty of YouTube videos that explain you how to use Zoom breakout rooms. So please come prepared so that we can use the time properly there. And for all the mentors on this call, please stay for 1 minute after this call, and all the startups you are free to drop. Thank you.
Yeah.
माझी बॅकग्राऊंड टाकतो. माझी बॅकग्राऊंड बरोबर आहे काय? नाही ना, ऑर्डिनरी आहे ना?
हो.
नाही.
मला पण नाही करता.
आय विल पुट. अरे आता मी आलो यार, आता मी करतो.
नाही, मला पण नाही आली करता.
नाही मला आहे, माझ्याकडे केलेली, मी देतो तुम्हाला, प्रत्येकाला देतो.
नाही सर, आपल्याकडे आलेली आहे. आज सकाळीच देवदत्तनी सर्क्युलेट केली आहे. सो वी क्रिएटेड अ बॅकग्राऊंड स्पेसिफिकली विथ अमृत ॲज लोगो.
नाही, मी माझी पण चेंज करतो. मी आता सेव्ह केलं.
राईट. So just hold for a few minutes.
Yes.
There, please do a quick run that we have only mentors, because there's something
we have a lot
special.
of startups yet.
Yeah.
startups teams, if you could
आणि
just
देवदत्त सगळ्या स्टार्टअप्सना व्हिडिओ ऑन ठेवायला सांगितलंयस ना ऑल थ्रू
You can
nice.
close the recording, Devdatta.
रेकॉर्डिंग बंद कर